For thousands of years, humans have discovered ingenious methods to preserve foods to survive the harsh temperatures of winter. In recent years, we've had the luxury of refrigeration, but what about before that? My name is Sheldon Luco, and I'm going to explain food preservation methods, including pickling, canning, and fermentation. These food preservation methods not only keep foods from spoiling, but they also add powerful flavors to the food. I will be demonstrating how to pickle foods, as well as explain how pickling, canning, and fermentation stop food from spoiling. Pickling really is a simple method of preserving food. We simply add salt, sugar, and often vinegar to a vegetable or fruit. Traditionally, to add the sugar, salt, and vinegar to the food, we make a brine. To make the brine, we add the salt and sugar into the vinegar and stir it like so. We then heat it on a stove until it reaches a boil and the salt and sugar dissolve, and let it cool. For your convenience, I have a brine already prepared. Simply pour it over the food and cover it. Next, place your pickling mixture into the cooler and let it sit for about a week. Then let the flavors develop. Note that different fruits and vegetables require different amounts of time to pickle completely. So how does pickling stop food spoilage? You can preserve foods and stop spoilage by adding a couple of materials that are not normally in contact with it. Salt and sugar are the most common because they have similar effects. They act to take away the water from the harmful microbes. They prevent them from getting access to the water that they need, and they do that by binding it to themselves. The ions of salt and sugar molecules are very good at latching onto water and not letting go. In normal conditions, harmful microbes are very plump and full of water and are growing and dividing very quickly. But the moment you add lots of sugar or salt to their environment, the water is sucked right out of them and the microbes shrink and become inactive, unable to grow or divide. So even though you didn't actually kill the microbes, you've stopped them from growing, and that's what really matters when it comes to pickling food. Canning is a more modern way of preserving foods, and it does this by wiping out the microbes that are in the foods. Simply put, canning is just killing the microbes and then putting the food in a container that will protect it from foreign microbes. The one thing you have to worry about when it comes to canning is botulism bacteria. Botulism loves to grow in an enclosed container with no air, and they have seed-like spores that survive boiling temperatures, which means you can't just boil the food and figure that you'll be able to get rid of all the botulism bacteria. Instead, put the food in a container, like a can or jar, and heat that container to super high temperatures. You must use a pressure cooker to heat the food to 240 or 250 degrees Fahrenheit, long enough to kill the spores. Then seal the container and the food will be safe and preserved. Preserving food doesn't just mean keeping the food from spoiling, however. It also adds strong flavors to the food itself that didn't exist before. In fermentation, it is the intentional cultivation of helpful microbes to prevent the spoilage microbes from growing. One method of doing this is to take the culture of a food already preserved properly with the helpful microbes and adding them to a new, fresh food that you want to ferment. Another method to promote the growth of the good microbes over the spoilage microbes is to change the chemical conditions of the surface of the food in favor of the good microbes. You can add salt to the surface of food, which will bring moisture out of the food because it attracts water to itself. The food juices begin to come out of the food and will feed the good microbes, giving them a head start on the spoilage microbes. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this demonstration on pickling and how canning, pickling, and fermenting stop food spoilage.